The wildfire raged through Los Angeles, leaving devastation in their wake. Streets that once buzzed with life were now ghostly echoes of themselves, veiled in ash and smoke. Keanu Reeves had been on his way to deliver supplies to an emergency shelter when he spotted something that made him hit the brakes. A woman stood in the middle of the road, her arms flailing desperately as tears streaked her soot-streaked face. Her clothes were tattered, her voice hoarse from yelling. Behind her, the inferno crept closer, a beast devouring everything in its path. Keanu pulled off his helmet, his brow furrowed. He stepped off his bike and approached cautiously. "What's wrong?" he asked, his voice calm but firm, cutting through the chaos around them. "My kids!" the woman cried, clutching at his jacket as though he were her last hope. "They're trapped! I couldn't get to them! The fire! It's too close!" Keanu's heart clenched. He looked past her, toward a small house partially hidden by thick smoke. Flames licked at its edges, and the roof sagged precariously. The woman fell to her knees, sobbing. "Please, someone has to help them. I can't lose them." Keanu crouched down to meet her gaze. "What's your name?" "Maria," she whispered. "Maria," he said, his voice steady despite the roaring flames behind them. "I'll get them, I promise. You just stay here, okay?" Her tear-filled eyes searched his face for reassurance, and something in his calm determination seemed to steady her. She nodded, clutching her hands to her chest as Keanu turned toward the burning house. Without a second thought, he sprinted into the smoke. The heat was suffocating, wrapping around Keanu like a vice as he approached the burning house. Smoke billowed out of shattered windows, stinging his eyes and making every breath feel like fire. He pulled his shirt over his mouth and nose, knowing he didn't have much time. The door was partially ajar, warped from the flames. Keanu shoved it open, the hinges groaning in protest. Inside, the air was thick with smoke, and the faint cries of children pierced through the chaos. His heart raced as he followed the sound, moving through what remained of the living room. "Hello," he called out, his voice muffled. "Can you hear me?" A small voice answered, trembling and terrified. "We're here! Upstairs!" Keanu scanned the room. The staircase was at the far end, but flames were already licking at the banister. He moved quickly, his boots crunching over shattered glass and debris. The heat was almost unbearable as he reached the stairs. "Stay where you are," he shouted, taking the steps 2 at a time. The wooden planks creaked ominously beneath his weight, and he knew they wouldn't hold for long. At the top of the stairs, he found 2 children huddled together in a corner, a boy who couldn't have been older than 8 and a girl barely 5. Their faces were streaked with soot, their eyes wide with fear. "It's okay," Keanu said, kneeling down to their level. His voice was calm, steady, as though they weren't surrounded by flames. "I'm here to help. We're going to get out of here, I promise." The boy clutched his sister tightly, his small body trembling. Are you a firefighter?" he asked, his voice barely audible. Keanu managed a small smile, even as the fire crept closer. "Not exactly, but I know how to get us out." The girl reached out her tiny hand, and Keanu took it gently. He scooped her up in one arm, then turned to the boy. "Hold on to my jacket, okay? Don't let go." The boy nodded, gripping the back of Keanu's jacket tightly as they made their way back toward the stairs. But as they reached the landing, a loud crack split the air. The flames had weakened the ceiling, and a beam came crashing down, blocking their path. Keanu froze for a split second, his mind racing. There was no way back. He scanned the hallway and spotted a window at the far end. It was their only chance. "Change of plans," he said, turning toward the window. "We're taking a shortcut." Keanu sprinted toward the window, the girl cradled in his arm and the boy clutching his jacket. The flames roared louder, the heat intensifying with every step. The floor beneath them groaned, threatening to collapse at any moment. When they reached the window, Keanu peered out. Below was a patch of scorched earth, clear of flames but littered with debris. It was a long drop, but it was survivable. "Hey," Keanu said, his voice calm as he looked at the boy. "You're going to be brave for me, right?" The boy nodded, his wide eyes brimming with tears. "Good. I'm going to lower you down first." Keanu carefully set the girl down and guided the boy to the window. He tied the boy's belt to his own, creating a makeshift safety harness. "Hold on to me tight, okay?" The boy wrapped his arms around Keanu's neck. With a deep breath, Keanu swung his legs over the windowsill and began to climb down. The wall was hot to the touch, the bricks crumbling under his grip. Halfway down, the house shuddered, a deafening crack echoing through the air. "Hurry!" the boy cried, his voice trembling. Keanu didn't respond. His focus was absolute. He lowered the boy to the ground, untying him quickly. "Stay here," he ordered, turning back toward the window. The girl was still inside, her small face pressed against the glass, tears streaking her soot-covered cheeks. Keanu climbed back up, the flames now licking at the window frame. "It's okay," he said, reaching for her. "I've got you." The girl hesitated for a moment before throwing her arms around his neck. Keanu cradled her securely, his muscles straining as he maneuvered down the wall. Just as his feet touched the ground, the house let out one final groan before the roof collapsed in a fiery roar. The force of the explosion sent a wave of heat and debris outward, but Keanu shielded the children with his body, holding them close. When the noise subsided, Keanu pulled back to check on them. Both kids were shaken but unharmed. The boy stared at him, awe and gratitude shining in his tearful eyes. "You saved us," the boy whispered, his voice trembling. Keanu gave him a small, tired smile. "Told you we'd get out." As the flames continued to consume the house behind them, Keanu carried the girl while the boy walked close beside him. They emerged through the haze of smoke and ash, stepping onto the road where Maria was waiting. The moment she saw them, she let out a cry of pure relief. "My babies!" she screamed, running toward them. Tears streamed down her face as she dropped to her knees, pulling the children into her arms. The boy buried his face in her shoulder, his small body trembling as he sobbed. The girl clung tightly to Maria's neck, her tiny hands gripping her mother as though she might disappear again. Keanu stood a few feet away, watching the reunion with quiet reverence. He could feel the raw emotions radiating from the family, their fear, their relief, their overwhelming gratitude. It was a moment that needed no words. Maria looked up at him, her tear-filled eyes meeting his. "I don't even know how to thank you," she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. Keanu shook his head, a soft, understanding smile on his face. "You already did," he replied, nodding toward the children. "They're safe. That's all that matters." Maria rose to her feet, still holding the girl in her arms. The boy stayed close, his hand clutching hers tightly. "You're a hero," she said, her voice steady now, filled with a quiet determination. Keanu gave a small shrug, glancing back at the burning house. "I just did what anyone would have done," he said, though he knew not everyone would have walked into the flames. The sound of distant sirens broke the moment. Fire trucks and ambulances were finally arriving, their lights piercing through the smoky air. Keanu turned back to Maria and her children. "They'll take care of you now," he said, his tone gentle. Maria reached out, her hand brushing his arm. "You took care of us first. We'll never forget that." Keanu gave a small nod, his eyes lingering on the children one last time. "Take care of them," he said softly. "I will," Maria promised, her voice firm. Keanu stepped back as the paramedics approached, giving them space. The family was safe now, and his job was done. But as he walked toward his motorcycle, parked just beyond the chaos, he couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just another rescue. As Keanu straddled his motorcycle, he glanced back one last time. The paramedics were tending to Maria and her children, wrapping them in blankets and checking for injuries. The fire truck sprayed torrents of water onto the flames, trying to control the inferno that had already claimed so much. He revved the engine, the low rumble grounding him in the moment. The wind carried the faint sounds of Maria's voice as she held her children close, promising them they were safe now. Keanu couldn't hear the words, but he didn't need to. He had seen the look in her eyes, gratitude, hope, and strength rekindled. As he rode away, the weight of the night settled on him. It wasn't the physical strain of running into a burning house or carrying children to safety. It was the emotional gravity of the situation. He had saved a family, but the fire had taken so much from so many. The streets were eerily empty, the air still thick with smoke. Keanu stopped at an intersection, looking at the city stretched before him. The fires weren't just destroying homes, they were leaving scars on lives, tearing apart communities. But amidst the devastation, there were moments of humanity, of connection, that couldn't be extinguished. By the next morning, the story had spread. News outlets and social media were ablaze with footage of Keanu Reeves carrying the children out of the inferno. The images captured more than just a daring rescue. They showed a man who, despite his fame, was willing to risk everything for people he didn't even know. Messages of thanks poured in from around the world, but Keanu remained silent. He didn't do it for recognition. He didn't do it for praise. A week later, Maria reached out to him. With the help of a local journalist, she sent a letter to his team, thanking him for giving her family a second chance. The letter ended with a simple line: "You reminded me what it means to believe in people again." Keanu read those words late one night, sitting alone in his home. He stared at the letter for a long time, his mind replaying the events of that harrowing night. And then, for the first time in days, he allowed himself to smile. Sometimes, saving one family was enough to light a spark that could bring hope to an entire city. Keanu folded the letter carefully and set it aside. Tomorrow, he would head back out to help in whatever way he could. Because that's what people needed. Someone willing to step into the fire, no matter the cost.